welcome back to the Gone for 10 show. You know what we're here for. We're here to talk about what will eventually be above our heads before I finish this recording. It's the last dance. It's the Rugby League World Cup final. But before we get to that, obviously, I'm your host, Tony. I'm joined by Baxter. Baxter, first of all, how are you doing? And then obviously we'll jump straight into those semi-finals, which, in fact, you got 100% correct with your prediction. So congratulations on that one.
Mate, I'm always right, so I'm feeling pretty good. It's been a great day, so let's rip into it.
Well, you know what they say, a broken clock is right twice a day, but we'll jump straight into it. Like you said, the first game was Australia taking on New Zealand. On the screen, it was 16-14. Australia triumphed there against New Zealand in what was, I guess, an interesting game. So before we get into kind of how that scoring happened, what was your main takeaway from this game? And obviously, New Zealand led. They led at halftime. Australia fought back, and it was a quiet and quite nervy last 25 minutes for both teams.
I thought it was pretty good. This was like a classic NRL match. Every player on the park and on the bench were somewhat NRL players, so take it as you will. It was good to see that our main man, a little side sponsor of the show, Ashley Klein, refereeing the game. No tendons in the bin this game, but it was really good. He refereed well. I think he kept the whistle in the pocket for the most part of the game, and only needed to blow it when he needed so. But it was a great game. New Zealand had us on the ropes right there at the end. It looked like it was all over, and unfortunately, didn't come up that way for them. But it was a great game overall, and I really enjoyed it for a Saturday morning.
100%. Obviously, we will bring up the scores there. The possession was 51-49. Completion rate 85-88. Errors 8 all, and the running meters were within 20 meters. So it goes to show you how close of a game it was. But it was Jerome Hughes in the 10th minute opening up the scoring. Josh Adokar in the 15th. Valentine Holmes in the 29th. Dylan Brown in the 36th. Cameron Murray in the 52nd. Nathan Cleary 2 from 3 with the boot, and Jordan Rapana 3 from 3. I know you've had your say on who you think should be taking the kick in now. Obviously, it didn't cost us in this game. Who knows, it might cost us in the final, but Nathan Cleary 2 from 3 did miss one kick. What have you made of, first of all, his kicking performance and obviously his all-round game so far this World Cup?
Nathan Cleary's, it's been good. From a rookie point of view, let's all remember this is his first time putting on an Australian jersey, so I don't think he's been given keys to the castle just yet, because there's one game left to go. We could see a shake-up with Cherry, maybe. I don't think he will be the starting 7, but he needs to work on his conversion rate, because if you look at it, if New Zealand got another try, we're out. So you need to keep your conversions up really, really high. 2 out of 3 ain't bad, but look, there's been other players who've kicked 100% in this comp, bias aside, who have won games that way. So Cleary, whatever it is, just even if it's just. He spends like 2 days just kicking, just getting used to the ball, getting used to the attitude, and just kicks all day, every day. And, because come the final, let's just say it comes down to us and Samoa, and it's the game on the line, and he needs to kick to win the game, and he misses. We don't want to see that happen. So practice on it. Practice makes perfect, but I think he can get the job done for the Kangaroos here.
Yeah, 100%. Obviously, talking about Samoa does lead us on to our next game. It was a massive, massive upset. It was England 26, Samoa 27. A game that obviously you did call. You said Samoa, I think it was 1-5 was your prediction. You said they were going to have that comeback. You said they were going to get that result. And again, I did go England, but I think we said we saw a very young side, and a young side in Samoa. They came into the World Cup with not a lot of experience. They got blown out in the first game, and if you watch their games as they kept going, they constantly kept improving.
Mm-hmm.
Something was working, they fixed it. So we obviously spoke about this off air, but if there was one team that I didn't want to face out of these two, I said I was more happy to face an England side than a Samoan side that, let's be honest, at times it looks like they're playing park football, backyard football. There's flicks around the backs, there's little rubbers, there's a flick backwards, the ball gets dropped, they pick it up, they throw it. Like, it's a game that can really test the Australians. So, again, we will go on and we will show how the scoring happened, what happened, but what were your main takeaways from this game? And obviously, as they like to say, Samoa. What was your takeaway?
Very, very good to see my dark horse of the competition get into the final. Did I see it happening the way it did? No. Did I see the way the scoreline happening the way it did? Yes. There's been lots of TikToks, Facebook videos of going, well, did the field goal attempt really go through? A lot of videos show it doesn't, white behind white, but the referees are there. No one's going to be stupid and say, oh, yeah, it went wide, but we'll give it to Samoa, especially being England the home team, should I say. But don't forget, these boys, most of these boys, these Penrith boys, most of them come from this like Western Sydney, Penrith area, and the big sport out here is Oztag. So you've got to keep the ball alive, and that's where I think, Jerome Luai, Critter, Tor, Tyron May, you put them all together. That's what they're doing in the off season. They're just playing touch footy or Oztag, and it's about keeping the ball alive. And I think they did that. A couple of times. Jerome Luai was playing jungle football, and hey, it worked because it got him, an extra 10, 15 yards up the field than they were going to just take a normal set up. Good to see the grubbiness of Jerome Luai get underneath England, because I think that was the turning point for Samoa. Rattled the cage a little bit and ruffled the feathers and come home with the win. It's great. It's good to see it. I loved it.
Well, we definitely know that Critter is a man that 100% loves intercepts. Obviously, he took the intercept in the final. He's now taken another one that did put him ahead. We thought the game was done and dusted. England brought it back, and then he did kick, obviously, the winning field goal, the only field goal of this tournament so far. So it's been quite impressive. Let's jump straight into looking at these stats. It was possession 53-47, so not much to split them. Completion rate, same thing, 80-82. Errors, 10-9, and only a 41-meter difference in all running meters. So, again, it was a very close game. It was a game that probably deserved to go to extra time. I think both these games really show that, okay, we had massive blowouts in the groups. We had massive blowouts in the quarterfinals, but coming down to those final four nations, it's got to be a lot closer. But obviously it was Tim Lafay in the 5th minute, Elliot Whitehead in the 24th, Liggy Sao in the 30th, John Bateman in the 44th, Stephen Crichton in the 48th, Tim Lafay in the 56th again, Herbie Fanworth in the 63rd, Stephen Crichton taking another intercept in the 72nd, and then Herbie tying it up in the 77th. Tommy Mackinson, 5 from 5. And Stephen Crichton, this is why I asked you that question before, because how important could kicking be come the final? Stephen Crichton, including penalty goals, went 4 from 7. So obviously we've spoken about Nathan Cleary, Stephen Crichton, he's at Penrith, he's a great backup kicker, but what do you make of that 4 from 7? Is it more so there's no one else in the team that's confident, or was it just an off game for him? A lot of kicks from the sideline, and obviously he's going to take the reign in the final.
Again, on my point, you need a goal kicker, because let's take that field goal away. So it's 26 all. Let's just add those extra kicks that he misses. It doesn't go down to the wire like it did, 7 from 7. That's 14 points. Extra you get on the board, plus your, 5 try. So what's that? 34 points to 26. So it's not too bad. But again, this week, Stephen Crichton just needs to, as you touched on, I didn't even know this. The players have been, I think there was a 30% drop in percentage kicking across all goal kickers in this tournament. Attitude, the new balls, they're not used to it. So this week, just the same thing. Try and just go kick. If he doesn't want to kick, you could put Jerome Luai in there, or you could put Anthony Milford. Joshua Sawaliti if you have to. I really don't know much of the kicking options for Samoa, but again, let's just put it down to the wire. Samoa need the kick to win, and he misses it. I think it'll be a very upsetting finish to their tournament if it came down to that. So kicking is really, really important. You don't want to go up in fours. You want to go up in sixes. And you want to really have a strong hold on the game ahead. So, like I said, Stephen Crichton, just go spend 2 days kicking various parts of the ground. It was very good to see Samoa get the win on my boys' home turf in the EPL. So I thought that's why they won. But we go to the Theatre of Dreams, which is Old Trafford, for the final on Sunday morning.
100%. Obviously, before we do jump into that, like you just said, then it is Australia taking on Samoa at 3 a.m. Sunday morning. But obviously, let's go through it. Most goals at the moment is Nathan Cleary, not far behind.
Could have had more.
Is Stephen Crichton. So, what was that?
I said he could have had more. Could have had more.
Well, not far behind him is Stephen Crichton, who has missed a fair few more than him. So it could be completely different in what we're looking at. Obviously, most tries is Josh Adokar. He has the chance to break that Australian record if he does score, obviously, in the next game in the final, which is very, very likely. Most points is Tommy Mackinson. He's on 68. He's 1 point, I believe, ahead of Stephen Crichton and 6 points ahead of Nathan Cleary. So there's a very big chance that, or I'd almost say, unless we hold him to nil, it's happening. Someone's going to take over that most points by the end of this game. But obviously what we're all here for, Backsearch Australia taking on Samoa, 3 a.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time, Sunday morning. Talk to me about it. What are your thoughts on this game? Your first initial thoughts, and then obviously jumping into, would there be any changes you'd make from that Australian side? And what's your result? 1 to 12, 13 plus. Who's lifting the trophy? Am I going to have a new background picture right there with a new team from Australia lifting the trophy, or a Samoa chance?
Oh, look, I'm always going to back. Not me, but you and I, we're always going to back our boys, the Kangaroos, to get the job done. And I've already said it. Australia go back to back, but look, Samoa's going to push us to the end. I'm always going to side with Australia, so I'm going to say, again, Australia, but I'm going to reduce it to, say, 1-5. I think this is him. Josh Adokar, he's had big games ball, but he comes up against his New South Wales counterpart, the one that the blokes that's been pushing him out in Brian To'o. So that's going to be a good matchup on the wing. We'll have to wait and see what's going on, but I liked it. The comment from Jerome Luai. We have brothers and enemies on the field, but there are no friends until after the game, and that's the way you got to play it. So forget that Nathan Cleary is your friend at Clubland. It's all about Samoa for them. So it's going to be an interesting game, whether you're a neutral, an Australian, or a Samoan. So it's going to be a great game regardless. But yeah, again, Australia 1-5.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be an interesting game, and I think it's quite special. You touched on that Jerome Luai comment. These boys played junior football together. They went out there, they won a premiership together. They went out there, they won an origin. And now for both of them, it's their first chance to obviously go in there and win a World Cup. I think for Jerome Luai, if he was to come out and win this, game, it'd be like, okay, we've said time and time again, he's nothing without Nathan Cleary. But if he can get the upper hand on a very star-studded Australia squad, then maybe he starts to get a bit more respect than what some people in the NRL do give him. But on the flip side, if Nathan Cleary comes out and Australia dominate and Nathan Cleary has a good game, which I'm not saying he doesn't dominate in tight games, but as we saw in State of Origin, when there's a blowout, we all sit there and go, holy shit, Nathan Cleary scored 28 points. But when it's a close game, we go, okay, so-and-so stepped up, so-and-so stepped up. So It's going to be an interesting final. I think it's going to be a bit more. I think Australia have the class, they have the forwards, they have the experience to go. I'm not going to go 13 plus. I'm going to go 1 to 12. As much as I'd love to go 13 plus, I would rather be incorrect and we then blow them off the park. But I think majority of this game does fall on who controls the kicking game more. So I'll ask you, you touched on it. Is there any way you can see Cherry Evans coming into this side? Because for me, it has to be Munster. It has to be Nathan. They've been there in the semi. They've been there in the quarter. They need to go the whole way.
Yeah, I don't think he changed the side. I think it was just the strongest lineup. This was the long in the semis. That was the strongest Australian side you could have. Could move a few players from the bench starting, and then vice versa. Maybe Murray starts, Liam goes back to the bench. But those players have to be in the starting 11. The starting 17. So
come on, man. I know it's at Old Trafford, but we're not playing. We're not playing the round ball. We're playing the egg ball. So definitely not the starting 11.
The running on the 17 running on squad. They leave it out was Cherry could stay at 18th man, but it just clicked to me. This is Jerome Luai's first ever time in a Samoan jersey, and he's in a final, and it's also Nathan Cleary. So this is a battle of, as you touched on, who can get it done. Is it Jerome Luai standing in Nathan Cleary's shadow forever and for hold? Or is it the vice versa and Nathan Cleary standing in Jerome Luai's shadow? Time will tell, but go Australia, and I just hope everybody comes out of it unscathed, and we can start 2023 nicely and fresh.
Yeah, well, it's obviously definitely a big talking point. I think if you're an Australian side, if you're on the Australian staff, if you're an Australian fan, when you started this tournament, it was, we're going to win it. We need to win it. We need to show everyone that we're the number one nation. Yes, we're not ranked that way, but just like the New Zealanders said, Australia is the best side. They should be ranked number one. I think for Samoa, they come into this final and win, lose, win by 10, lose by 50, lose by 1. This is such a successful tournament for them. And these young kids are now so much better having this experience. They're going to move forward. They're going to push on. But Baxter, you have one more thing you wanted to bring up?
Oh, it's not a bring up. It's more of a question. Regardless of Samoa's game on Sunday, I was reading a few pundits. Now we should, the NRL should scrap State of Origin or include these players. Now, my question to you is, regardless of if they win or lose, do you believe Samoa now become a tier 1 nation? Like, do they fall under this category, or do they need to be sort of helped along the way? Like, this is a stepping stone in the right direction, because for me, I think the NRL need to sort of take on Samoa, Tonga, the Cook Islands, Lebanon, because I don't think the international whatever the board or whatever has a clear set outline or plan from now until the next World Cup, which is in 2025. So that's about 3 years away now. These boys don't know whether they're going to be playing one game a year, because the NRL got tests because we removed the Sunday game, or the second Sunday game for the State of Origin. So you could be playing no games for Tonga or no games for Samoa up until the next World Cup. So should the NRL look at adopting them and putting them under their umbrella and saying, hey, we can give you maybe 3 games a year, whilst the Australian boys are playing State of Origin, you can play for Samoa, work on money figures later. I've had my say with a few people close to me, and they somewhat agree. But it would be good to see maybe a little tournament, New Zealand, Samoa, Tonga, Cook Islands, Lebanon, England. They all play sort of someone different. It doesn't have to be the same team all the time. And you could play, Samoa could play Tonga, England, New Zealand, or something, and mix it up along the way. So at least they're getting some game time, and they can be proud of that Samoa Tonga jersey. It would be good, but that's my thoughts. What is your opinion on the whole subject?
I think honestly, and I know a few people have come out and they've spoken about it. We've got to scrap this tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, whatever it is. If you're playing international, you're playing international. We need to start putting, like you said, everyone under that same bracket. Samoa's shown they can match it with the big boys. Tonga showed that they could match it with Samoa. So I think we need to start scrapping these tiers. But I'm kind of on the fence with this because I think if we go out there now and we say you've represented another country, you can't play for State of Origin, the spectacle of State of Origin gets ruined. Like, you lose all these big names. You lose, well, look at the lineups. You lose Critter. You lose To'o. You lose Luai. You lose Victor Radley. Like, I know Radley hasn't played, but you start losing all these games. And to me, I start going, what was that? Yeah, but to me, I start going, okay, maybe I'm not as interested. Yeah, like, I'm not as interested in the game if the top 20, say, from Queensland and New South Wales are missing 5 or 6 players that could have played in that New South Wales and Queensland game. So I think for me, scrap the tiers. If you want to play Origin, great. But based on where did you play your first game? Where were you born? Let's go back to that. Let's play it that way. But I think you've got to, like you said, the NRL needs to throw a branch out. They need to get these teams under there because the last 4 games have been absolutely brilliant at this World Cup. Before that, we sat there and we went, what was the point of some of these teams being in the group stages? Yes, they earned their spot. Yes, they deserve to be there, but it was a blowout after blowout. Like, it wasn't enjoying to watch. Like, Australia winning by 80 points. Cool, I was over it after we went up 20-0. But I guess the only way you could do this is if the NRL somehow chucks in, maybe when the Prime Minister's Kangaroos XI, maybe they play every week during the final series. So 1 week they play New Zealand, then 1 week they play Samoa, then 1 week. So at least these players are playing against, okay, they might be Australia's B side if most of them are playing in the finals, but you have a mini tournament like the preseason draw that is coming out this year. Maybe they do something like that. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, at least get them playing, because I'm not ever going to knock back, one of these blokes who want to represent, who are born, example. Let's use Critter as the example because he's on screen. He's born here in Western Sydney, but will happily represent Samoa with his bit of family nation. I'm not going to knock back anybody who does that. I want to see, because it doesn't get it does get a bit. Is it going to be Australia, New Zealand, or is it going to be Australia, England, or is it going to be New Zealand, England final? It does get a bit boring when it's only 3 big nations tossed around. Finally, for once, we have Tonga who can put it to New Zealand and England, Australia in the past. Now Samoa is now there. Lebanon, if they work on whatever they need to, they could be impressive. The Cook Islands, Fiji. You got, as you said, you got to, some of these countries were up 20-25-0, and then they just went and a snooze fest. Maybe they, at the end of the year, maybe you play 3 or 4 games just to keep them going and get them representing their country. So it's not, either I play State of Origin and get some money, and come World Cup Monday for somewhere else. I think it should just be like, where you want to represent Samoa, Tonga, New Zealand, England. The choice is yours, but if you pick not Australia, well, then you're not eligible for State of Origin. And I think that's sort of, I read someone's comment was that's the reason why State of Origin was sort of an idea to make the State of Origin what it is today, like getting the best Australian players on a higher level and picking the best for the Australian squad. It wouldn't be bad seeing that, but I don't think you lose the spectacle of Origin if you take out some of these big player names. Like we've had in the past.
If you scrap, sorry if I jump in there, if you scrap the T1, I know you love to be unbiased. You'd love to be biased when it comes towards this bloke, but if you scrap this T1 ruling, a man that's won player of the series how many times? Or sorry, New South Wales player of the series, James Tedesco doesn't represent New South Wales ever because he's made that fin for Italy back in the past. You look at the likes of that, like you start to lose some pretty big players. And if you've got third and fourth choice fullbacks, third and fourth choice half partners, it does start to lose a bit of that spectacle.
It does, maybe, but the problem I have with, and this is before the World Cup started, was that players were choosing to be eligible for New South Wales or Queensland and then turning their back, or not really turning their back, but then choosing to elect to play for another country and not making themselves available for Australia, when in the past you make yourself available for Australia because you play State of Origin, and then if you're not picked, well, then you can pick whatever nation you want to represent with the eligibility rules. But maybe it's that. Maybe you go, okay, like on a form when you're under 16s, or you're getting into your under 16s and it's lodged with the NRL, or if you make one of these clubs and you go, oh well, where were you born? Australia. Okay. Do you have any ties to any other countries? Yes. And you write them down, and wouldn't it be good to see Tedesco running around in a better blue jersey of Italy? It would be good to see instead of State of Origin. But yeah, we'll never. We'll see what happens. It's a bit of a thing. I do agree with you. This Tier 1, Tier 2 nation thing needs to be scrapped. Everybody just seems to be on the same playing field. But I think if you got, I think in the next, say, 10 years, if you had, Australia, New Zealand, England, Samoa, Tonga, Papua New Guinea, the Cook Islands, Lebanon, Italy, let's go Scotland out there, and you had Fiji, Wales, whatever. If you had 12 competing nations at the top tier of the of rugby league, and let's bring you into it because you're in Italian heritage. Just say a little Tony running around and goes, "All right, where do you want to play? Australia or Italy?" And you go, "Well, I have a chance of making it both. So who do I choose?" The options there at the moment, of course, you're going to pick Australia because it's a higher. I don't know the right words, but it's like
high caliber.
Yeah, you're not going to. If you pick Italy, yeah, you might play a few games, but you're going to get bashed around a little bit. But at least in Australia, you have a real hot chance of playing some finals tournaments. So, but yeah, if you had 12 teams or even 8 nations competing at the highest level, especially with, the figure is now is like 50% of the NRL is now Polynesian descent, whether it's New Zealand, Tonga, Samoa. That number's pretty high, so we need to start recognising this. Whether they, I know in Queensland Cup they brought in a Pacific Island team into it, which is great to see because it's one of the teams I actually look out for when it comes to Queensland Cup. But if we can get a pathway for these players to come across and play here in the NRL, and then they're happy to select their home nation when it comes to an international level, as long as they're playing enough amount of games, we can always work on the money. The money's easiest. We can talk that till the cows come home, but this needs to be sorted out with a pathway for these players to be playing more regularly in these jerseys, representing these nations. If you go back maybe about State of Origin time, I think my stance on it was a bit different, but that just comes with information as it rolls around. But yeah, that's where that's where I sit. I think that we work on a pathway, and NRL need to put them under their little wing and say, "Come on, let's help them out, because the international won't do anything. They'll just sit back and go, well, it's been great. Look at Samoa; they should be able to build on this. But you're not creating the pathways for the next young bloods and the next, what's after 2029. So that's the World Cup after that. When's the next young crop come through, when Luai and Critter are like 29, 30, ready to retire? Where's the next crop of young blokes from Samoa ready to come in underneath? But that's my opinion on it. And like they say, everybody's entitled to opinions, because opinions are like arseholes. Everybody's got one.
Well, definitely everyone is entitled to an opinion, but if you think Samoa is going to win this game as an Australian, I'm not really listening to your opinion right now, so you can attack me in the comments. I don't really care. Australia all the way. I've gone 1-12. You've gone 1-5. It's been a great episode. I wish we could keep talking, but we are pushing that 30-minute mark. We will be back next week. We will review, obviously, the winner, the loser, the takeaways from this game. We'll then obviously work on breaking down that draw, and we'll be talking about what we thought of the NRL draw, how it's set up, how it's all that. We'll start getting some guests on. We'll go team by team. We'll do seasons preview. So there's going to be a lot of content coming left, right, and center. We're going to keep pushing until the NRL season obviously does start. But as it says down the bottom, thanks for watching. Obviously, if you like the video, hit like. Make sure you hit subscribe. But live count as of 2 seconds ago, we are at 160 subscribers. So it'd be brilliant if we could hit that 200, obviously, in the next coming weeks. Yeah, so that would be brilliant. But Baxter, as always, mate, 32 minutes in. It's been brilliant. It's gone flying. It's been a breeze. Thank you for joining me. And, mate, if they haven't liked, if they haven't subscribed, where are they going?
As Ashley Klein would say, you're going for 10, mate. You're going for 10.
Well, there it is. Baxter, thank you for joining me, mate, and we'll talk soon.
Yeah, peace.